these. My desk is a mess. I finally went and bought like all these Whoppers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you've heard of these.
I haven't had a
guess.
Whopper in a long time.
I didn't know what they were until I potty
Really?
trained my oldest son. Yeah, and now that my middle son is potty training, finally was like, like going through all the treats for him and trying to get what he likes the best. And I have like had a little bit of chocolate left from like Halloween and Easter, and I have like a buttload of like hard candy and like the other direction. And I was like, okay, we ate all the chocolate. Like, I guess we'll just exist on like Starburst and Skittles for a while. And he was like, I don't like Starburst. Like after like a week, he was like, no,
I'm done with this.
I was like, oh, okay. So I had to go buy. So I just bought like 4 boxes of Whoppers. And then he regressed today, but I don't think it was the Whoppers. I think
sure.
He's starting to play that Switch, and he's starting to get like tunnel vision. Like he'll just be standing there
through bathroom time.
He's just playing. He's just standing there playing on it, and he'll be like, "Daddy, I need you to clean." Like he won't take his face away from the screen. He's just like playing Sonic, and then he's like, "Daddy, I need to go dump the poop." And I was like, "Oh, you pooped your pants?" And he's like, I'm like, "Hey, did you poop your pants?"
Yeah.
And
it's just a very simple question. The fact that you're taking so long.
This is a simple question, doctor.
It's a simple question, doctor. That's Harry Carey, isn't it?
Would you eat the moon if it were made of spare ribs? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
It's a simple question,
It's a
doctor.
simple question.
Would you eat the moon if it were made of spare ribs? And wash it down with a nice cold Budweiser. All right. We have to stop talking about SNL on the show. Right.
We can't start every show.
Hey, did you see SNL? Though, I'm going to though. Did you see? I did watch the Dua Lipa one that just happened.
Okay.
She was really good.
Was she? Okay, cool.
The headline I saw when I was looking for clips, like there was some article and it was like Dua Lipa shines in an otherwise lackluster SNL episode.
Ooh.
So I guess but there was one in particular, I'll send it to you, but people can look this up, but it's like Spoonie, Young Spicy. And it's just like these 2 singers like in a recording studio, and the Young Spicy wants him like add some color to his like his beat or whatever. And they keep suggesting that he's like closeted or that he's overly aggressive towards women. Everything it starts like, "Oh, spicy, mega spicy. Oh, spicy. Why your wrist so limp?" Anyway, it was really good. She's good. I was impressed. I don't know anything about Dua Lipa, but she's like doing multiple accents, and like I was like, okay, I was pretty impressed.
Okay.
So, and she was like doing the music too.
Okay.
So
it was like within the last few months, probably, that I asked my wife, "What is a Dua Lipa, and why do I keep hearing about it?"
You old bitch.
I was like, "It's because she's in Argyle. That's the only reason I'm hearing about her now."
Oh yeah, yeah. No, she's the real deal. She got that song with Elton John.
Does she really?
She has some song with Elton John, like some duet with like some collaboration with them. It's called Cold Cold Heart. And it utilizes a little bit of the Rocket Man melody.
Oh, okay.
But he's like involved in them,
Okay.
Because I think he did one with Britney Spears too recently.
Did he?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I can't remember what that one is, but it's
right. Well,
Elton John's like, "Hey, I'm
good
just
for
gonna,
you, Elton.
Yeah, for no reason, I'm gonna hang out with these sexy women, even though I have literally nothing to gain from it."
I can't get more revered, and I can't. Yeah,
I don't want to sleep with them. I have more than enough money, and my career does not need a boost.
Yes.
Why am I doing this?
Yep.
If that doesn't show you that at no point in life will you be satisfied with what you're currently doing, just look at Elton John.
Yeah, right. There you go.
No reason to persist, and there he is persisting.
And there he is. Yep.
These are great for me. I love spitball episodes because I don't have to pull trailer music for them.
Sure. Yeah.
So these always go out real quick. Yeah. I was going through my 2004 list. And when's the last time you saw Man on Fire?
I've never seen Man on Fire.
Really?
Really?
Whoa.
Yep.
I think I erased my notes for it. Not that I had many. But yeah, Man on Fire. So it's a Denzel Washington movie.
Yes.
Do you know who the director was?
I don't.
So the director was Tony Scott. It's another reason.
Okay,
it's kind
gotcha.
It's about a CIA guy, Denzel Washington. He's in Mexico, and he's getting hired as this bodyguard for Mark Anthony's character. And Mark Anthony's married to Radha Mitchell, and their daughter Dakota Fanning. In this era when she was still like really, really a small kid,
right?
That's their daughter, and so like they set it all up by saying like the kidnapping rate is super high in Mexico City and whatever, and so Denzel plays John Creasy, and Creasy's did some terrible things he feels guilty about while he was with the CIA, and so he's like an alcoholic now. But he's still good enough to be the bodyguard until she is kidnapped, and it's this real crazy.
It sounds like he's not good enough to be the bodyguard.
he faces some fierce opposition. But then he spends the rest of the movie. It's like a revenge movie. He's like trying to find all the kidnappers, and he's killing them. I mean, he shoves a bomb up a dude's butt and interrogates him before it counts down and blows him up. It's a really cool movie because of course it's Tony Scott. So it's like, it's kind of overwhelming with like all the flashes. And I was just like, stop.
Please.
So it's a little overwhelming, but there's style to it,
Sure.
But of course Denzel's great. And cool sound design and all that stuff. So
nice.
Yeah. And so that's where I got refixated on Denzel's finger, because I was like, man, his pinky's kind of, and so I just Googled it. I was like, what's it? And I figured out that was like a whole thing. I remember texting you all about it, I think.
I don't remember this.
What is it about
Denzel
he like broke his pinky when he was like a teenager or something. And so like if you go back in like his earlier roles all the way up to like the late 2000s, his right pinky, I think, like bends at like a 45-degree angle away from his other fingers.
Whoa.
Yeah, like that, but straight. And it's like, so if he has his hands up in the frame, it's just like,
yeah.
And like, it looks like it, how like you see like really old people's hands and they have like horrible arthritis. And so like their fingers start to kind of splay out.
Yep.
It's like that. It's just one. It's just someone just took his finger and went, gah!
Oh my gosh.
And then I came across like an interview or something where he was like, I finally got it fixed. Like, he's like, now they're all straight. It's,
I can't imagine the pain involved in that.
So I watched, I'm sure he was under anesthetic.
I'm sure.
Unless the same guy who broke it rebroke it on the street.
Rebroke it again.
Yeah, maybe before Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
No, it was sometime in the late, because I watched, I don't think it shows up after like, I don't think it's in the Book of Eli or anything.
Okay.
But I also watched from 2004 with Denzel, the Manchurian Candidate. And it's in there too. And I was just like staring at it. And so that just became, I couldn't look away. Like every time his hand would come up in frame, I'd just like staring at his finger.
Wow.
Marveling at it. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Have you ever seen the original Manchurian Candidate?
I have not.
And probably not this one either.
I have not.
So I watched them both.
Okay.
Again, 2004. And so I was like, let me watch the original. So I was surprised. So the original Manchurian Candidate came out in 1962. And it's really good. As you probably know, it's about like a secret plot to like infiltrate, to essentially like mind control these veterans or whatever, and get them to be sleeper agents or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a really great story that unfolds really slowly. And doesn't give you all the information right away. Cause like for the first couple of scenes, I'm like, what the hell's going on? But there's a really cool scene where they show like the scientist in like a big room full of scientists. And he's got all the GIs that they captured or whatever, just sitting in the room, like smoking. And he's like, they think they're at a flower shop right now. And so it'll flash. And so like the soldiers standing around and the person talking to the soldiers, it goes from him, and then like the shot will change, and it's like just some woman talking about hats, and they're like, "Oh yes, it's lovely," you know. And the other scientists are like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." And it's really cool stuff. So they're under complete, you know, and they have him. They have one of them get up and kill another one in front of all of them, and nobody react. It's fucking creepy. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. So it's actually a really cool movie. Sometimes those older movies kind of lose the element of surprise because they've been copied so much.
Sure. Yeah.
But not that one. I actually recommend that. People should see that.
I had a teacher in high school that always like highly recommended that movie, and one of my best friends loved it. And so I was like, I will also see this movie. And then I just never did. And now it's been too long.
Yeah. Well, you should check it out. I think I don't remember where I watched it. So the original film is directed by John Frankenheimer. And among the cast, you know, of course, you have Frank Sinatra. Janet Leigh is in the movie. Angela Lansbury plays like the mother, and she's really good in the film. Okay. So that role in the remake is played by Meryl Streep, also really good. Sure. So of course Denzel's in it. Liev Schreiber is in it. Jon Voight, Jeffrey Wright. It's really good in this movie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So they kind of recontextualize some of the stuff, you know, to kind of update it for the modern day, in a more modern, you know, geopolitical context. But like you watch it and they don't do the exact same thing. So it's a worthy remake in that sense. It's still like, why would you do that? But like, I think they're both worth seeing, especially if you haven't seen the original. Like it's worth it to go back and watch them. Maybe not like back to back like I did. Sure. But worth it. Yeah. Okay. I would say. Last thing I'll say, because I know you watched something that I've already talked about. But I also watched, just speaking of like geopolitics, I also watched Navalny. Okay. Which is that documentary about Alexei Navalny. I think it was from like 2021 or something, maybe something like that. I don't know. So I watched it right after he died. So this was a couple months ago or whatever. And, you know, there's not much for me to say about it. Like it's just sort of follows him being who he is, you know, like not afraid of standing up to Vladimir Putin and being, it's almost like if you know who Alexei Navalny is, then you can probably tell what the movie is about. It's just, you know, just watching him, but he's very courageous. You know, he's an idealist, in an ugly world, that does not care about the rules-based order or the individual rights of human beings. And that world being Russia under Vladimir Putin. The highlight of the film for me is this really, crazy scene is he starts investigating his attempted murder. Cause there was multiple attempts on his life, but, there's the big one where he was like poisoned on the plane and he almost died. And so he starts to sort of like like him and some journalists and some other people like start like investigating it. And he manages to get one of the guys from the FSB, like the you know, which is basically the KGB. He manages to get one of those guys on the phone, like tracks him down or whatever, and like tricks the guy into admitting it basically. And they have it all on tape. You're just sitting there listening to this. And so just to hear someone confirm like, yes, like there was a formal attempt on your life. It wasn't some fucking mistake, you know, whatever horseshit they put in the state papers. So to have one of the guys be dumb enough to admit it is pretty compelling. Yeah, sure. So of course he was killed recently, in the penal colony, where at the end of the film, you see him get arrested, and that's where he then spends the rest of his life. And it's widely believed that he was murdered at the behest of Vladimir Putin. And one of the people you're introduced to in the movie too is his wife, who is just as fearless as him and is sort of like continuing his crusade. Especially after like she's been like, cause like the government won't like let them have his body or whatever. It's nuts anyway. So the call to action at the end of the film from Navalny is basically for people not to be afraid and to resist complacency when they know that injustice is happening. It's just it's powerful in that way. Like there's nothing like surprising in it if you already kind of know like how oligarchical or dictatorships work, then nothing will really surprise you. But it is inspiring to see like, no, there's people like, it's not like everyone in Russia is like cool with it. You know, like there's people like him who not only are not cool with it, but they're not afraid to put their lives on the line to expose it. Sure. And it's really cool stuff to see someone going like, don't let the terrorists win, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, that's crazy, you know, and he's got like kids and stuff. He has daughters.
Sure.
But I think they live in the US. Like I think they are in college in the US. And so I think his family's like safe or whatever. But like even they have like I think they have like American accents too. They're in the movie. They speak Russian, but like when you hear them talk, they basically sound American.
Right. Sure.
But yeah. And even they're like down with his cause, basically. They're not like, what an idiot, you know. They have
to be, yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's cool stuff. So that's on Max. I know that. Cool. So that was cool. Okay. Did you told me you saw Oppenheimer?
Yeah, I did see Oppenheimer.
What'd you think?
Yeah, so I gave it 4 stars. I mean, I think it's certainly well deserving of the praise it's been getting. I don't think it's my favorite Christopher Nolan movie by any stretch, but I enjoyed it and I had a good time and I was consistently engaged and I thought it was impressive. I'm always impressed by Christopher Nolan's scope. Yeah. And by his ability to manage nonlinear story and do that well. Like from the beginning, he's done that. And so this film, you know, also kind of jumps around. I mean, I guess it's mostly linear, but it jumps back and forth between like what's happening with Robert Downey Jr. as sort of this chorus and then back and forward. And it kind of works its way into like this tangled web of, you know, the life of Robert Oppenheimer. And it's really cool. I was impressed by the cast. I was impressed by, you know, the filmmaking. Again, I think it falls, you know, like in terms of like the best Christopher Nolan movies, and maybe I should have thought about this before now, but like in terms of like a ranking, I like it better than Interstellar. I like it better than Dunkirk. I certainly like it better than Tenet. It's probably it's a better movie than Dark Knight Rises, but I still think that like I enjoy The Dark Knight, The Prestige, Batman Begins better, but for personal reasons, right? Like I just enjoy the character of Batman, and The Prestige I just think is a masterclass. Yeah. And Memento is just such a great, I don't know. I discovered that at the right time in my life where I'm like trying to figure out what filmmaking is. And so it holds a special place. And so I don't know. I don't know that Oppenheimer beats it just for like the rose colored glasses of nostalgia, but it's certainly like a solid movie and deserving of the praise it's gotten. Cillian Murphy's fantastic. And, yeah, I mean, everybody is. It's great. No notes. I mean, you know, I mean, it's not a perfect movie, but no notes. Like I see what you were doing, and you did it well. I think like sometimes when I say no notes on a movie that I also don't give 5 stars to, it's like, well, because I didn't personally attach to it as strongly as other films. Right. So it has nothing to do with the film or nothing to do with the filmmaker or his intent or how well he executed his ideas. It has everything to do with my attachment to it. And so for that reason, it's a 4-star movie, not like a 5-star movie. But I have no notes. Like, it's a solid movie. I couldn't have done a better one. If you had handed me, a stack of legal paper and said, here, sir, write a film about Oppenheimer, I'd have said, no, thanks. I can't do that. But Nolan does it fantastically. And, I'm excited to see what he does next. I think I wanted to ask you, like, with Christopher Nolan, he's done a lot of things. He's done the big tentpole, comic book movie. He's done small indie movies, whether it's Following or Memento. And then he graduated up to what this is, which is like, historical epic, and, the same with like Dunkirk. And then you have something like Interstellar or Tenet, which is like star-studded, big scope, and yet not based on anything. So he's kind of run the gamut of like what a filmmaker can do, but I haven't heard anything about what his next project might be. What would you want now out of Christopher Nolan as a filmmaker? Like, where would you want to see him push into?
I don't know. It's hard to imagine.
Right.
Like you said, he's had a whole journey, and when you get to like epic, not even really a biopic, but like epic subject matter, like the atomic bomb, it's like, I guess you would want him to make like it's kind of like when Walter Isaacson writes a book, it's like, oh, I guess we'll just write another awesome biography, but like that's not what a filmmaker tends to do.
Yeah.
I thought I heard something about what his next project would be, but I don't know if that was just someone. I can't remember. I don't remember if I for some reason when you said that, I was like, didn't I hear something? But maybe I didn't.
Maybe so. There's nothing listed on IMDb as upcoming.
Yeah.
As a director. So maybe there's something he's producing or writing. I don't know. But like, I'm thinking about it going, okay, should he go backwards and like, recenter himself in like an independent kind of spirit, and, do away with the star-studded cast and like get rid of, like, strip it down and just do something simple to prove he still can, or like keep pushing, because there is an argument to be made. And I'm not going to make the argument, but there is an argument that I've seen floating out there that his films are starting to feel samey, in that like it's similar cast members. It's, like the subject matter, even though it's different, it's like approached similarly.
Sure. Almost like they were made by the same
almost
man.
Like they're made, and that's why I'm like, I'm not going to make that argument, right? Like,
yeah,
he's making his movies, like it's his flavor. That's why we go see it. I mean, this is the Christopher Nolan brand. I don't want to see him lose that brand, but in terms of like, what do you want to see him do next? The only thing that comes to mind is like, I would like to see what he could do for James Bond, because I know he's a big fan.
Ooh, yeah.
But then that puts him squarely back in the tentpole, like IP world, which is fine. It's not like he didn't thrive there.
Yeah.
But it feels a little bit at this point in his career like you don't have to do that. You know what I mean?
This is a dark answer, but I think he needs to go step on a landmine. I think he needs to. I think this needs to be it. Like, or he retires. You know what I mean? Like, I guess that's an option too. But like, it's interesting because like Quentin Tarantino is like, I'm gonna make 10 movies and I'm out. So I'm making one more film and then I'm done. I'm just gonna write novels. And so like, there's a segment of the fans, they're like, no. But then there's a party that goes, wow, I respect that a lot, because that must be hard for most people to do. Yeah. And then when you think about it, like, I don't think I want Tarantino to make films until he's 70. I don't think he doesn't want to do that.
Right.
And so you wonder like if Nolan ought to just do the same thing. But I think if he were inclined to do that, he would have just stuck it out with Warner Brothers and made Oppenheimer and then retired. He doesn't want to retire. He went through all this shit to get this new deal with Universal.
Yeah.
But that being said, what would I have him do? I would have him retire. I'm sure he can make another good film that I'll enjoy. But since I can't think of what I want him to do next, I'm going to use my limited imagination to put my vote in for him just gracefully retiring and being like, yep,
sure.
I mean, the man just won Best Picture, but like he just all these awards. It's like,
yeah.
What if his last film is like he wants to do a remake of What About Bob?
I'm gonna remake Talladega Nights,
and it just bombs at the box office.
Yes,
it gets a Razzie, and then he retires.
For the rest of his life, he's like, should have went out with Oppenheimer.
He wears the "Don't hassle me, I'm local" shirt every day for the rest of his life.
Yes. Here's what because I was thinking about this too, and I'm like, my vote is I don't know what I want to see him do next, but I know what I want to see him not do. I know what I do not want from
Step
him.
on a landmine.
I don't want him to step on a landmine.
It was a bad suggestion. I'm sorry.
Chris, no more.
It was hard. It was a full measure. I apologize.
What I want from Chris Nolan what I don't want from Chris Nolan is another biopic. And I don't want another historical World War II. Like, I don't want any of that. Like, I want him to do something different. I don't care if it's a Western. Like, I don't care what it is. It could be a musical. I don't care. I just don't want him to, because there is a tendency with some filmmakers to win that Oscar and say, well, then I'm just going to do that same thing again.
Oh,
like that's what people like. So I'm going to do it again. And so you do it with like a slightly different flavor, or like, it's like, it's sort of the same, but kind of different. And I don't want that. And honestly, I don't want Cillian Murphy to be his next lead. Like, I want something different.
I have an idea. This is the crucible I want every filmmaker to go through at some point. If you're not sure what to do next, here's what you should do. Do an animated film. That's like, just change mediums.
Change mediums.
Like,
yeah, sure.
don't do a silent film. Don't do a documentary. Don't do a TV show.
Sure.
Do animation. Like,
sure.
know, Brad Bird, The Incredible, although he went out of animation into live action, but like,
right.
I talk all the time about The Legend of the Guardians. I think that's my favorite Zack Snyder movie. And it's like, Zack Snyder should do more animated films. That he's certainly suited to it, but he can't or won't animate muscles like he probably wants to. Mm-hmm. So it's like, he never will. But I would like to see, I would have watched 10 more of those movies because they were stylish and fun and compelling and visually stunning. I know that Nolan, a big strength of Nolan's is in the tactile, elements of live action filmmaking, but I'd be curious. So maybe it's not suited to everybody, but I really love Rango. That's a animated film by a person who's only done, I guess that's just that one animated film. Yeah. And it's like, I'm curious, like, show me something,
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd be down with that. I mean, I think that ultimately what I want him to do is just something different. Yeah. And again, so like I mentioned, Western, musical, I don't care. I just want him to do something I have not seen him do. Like, I would love for him to do like a straight up like sci-fi film. Mm-hmm. Like, Interstellar is Interstellar and, whatever, Tenet is Tenet, but like a straight up, in space sci-fi movie would be great. I'd like to see him go horror. I have no like preconceived notion of what I want him to do, just that I want it to be different. And
he'd be good with horror, I think.
Yeah, I think it'd be a weird transition because there's really nothing in his filmography that borders on horror. So I don't know, but I do think that I just want something different. And like one of my favorite things. So say what you will about Steven Spielberg. I love Steven Spielberg. Over the years, Steven Spielberg, like, he won his Oscar and then things started to feel samey. Like, started to stick with certain people and do certain things. And so you end up with like a lot of like Bridge of Spies, Munich, and like these very like, it just feels like copy paste kind of thing. Like, of course you'd be drawn to that because you were drawn to the other thing. And then he goes and releases West Side Story, which to me was the best movie he'd made in quite a long time. And it's because it's so different from him. And it has a lot of the modern Spielberg hallmarks, but it's still like a very different thing for Steven Spielberg to do. And it's something he was very passionate about. And it's the same thing with, like, you know, you mentioned go animated. Well, remember when Peter Jackson and Spielberg did Tintin? It was, look, we're going to do, it's like, how do you follow up Lord of the Rings? I don't know, King Kong and Tintin and whatever, before he goes back to the well and then changes again and says, well, now I'm going to just repurpose and rejuvenate old footage with World War I footage or the Beatles. And that's all great. But like, that I think is what you have to do to stay relevant. And I'm not saying that Peter Jackson is the perfect example of it. But I think that and he's also doing an animated movie. He's producing an animated movie now. Oh. But like, it comes out later this year. No one knows about this. I mentioned this the other day. I
have no idea about this.
It's a new Lord of the Rings movie.
Is this wait a minute.
It's the War for the Rohirrim.
Oh, that's a film. Okay.
It's a film. And Miranda Otto is coming back to play Éowyn and voice Éowyn. And like, it's like, no one knows this is happening.
It's like a prequel thing.
It's set way before. Yeah. And I'm like, this is great. Like, reinvent, like, yes, that's samey. It's the same. It's Lord of the Rings, but like, reinvent yourself in some way. And again, I don't think he's directing that. I think he's producing it. And I think maybe his wife is writing it or whatever. Right, but like, the point is, take a risk and do something different. That's what I want from Chris next, is just give me something different.
He should buy Criterion and then like make them actually do their jobs. Like he should
do it well.
He should somehow, even though you can't do this categorically, you cannot do this. He should buy the Library of Congress, or like, the National Film Registry, and he'll just, that's just his job now, is like, I will shepherd all film, all movies for all mankind.
Yes.
And he puts like an IV into his arm and he's hooked up to, and now he's like immortal.
Celluloid, straight celluloid in my brain, in my veins.
He just boils celluloid and drips into his arm. And and then that keeps him alive forever. So for centuries, he has this horrible needle in his arm. It's this black lightning looking stuff.
In a floating chair. He's like emaciated and dead, but he's still in a suit. Still looks great.
He looks like Baron Harkonnen in his like pool of tar.
Yeah.
He's like, would you like a copy of What About Bob? He has the original negative.
Have you ever heard the story? This is an aside. Have you ever heard the story of when Christopher Nolan called Vince Gilligan?
No.
Christopher Nolan.
To tell him he loved Breaking Bad?
Yeah. He was trying to drum up support for like, support film and like, abandoned video. And so he called Vince Gilligan and was like, hey, Vince, I know you shot Breaking Bad on film. Like, I'm hoping I can, count on you to help shepherd film. And he was like, hey, Chris, I'm all about that. But I do want to let you know, Better Call Saul and El Camino were both shot digitally. And he said, and then it got really awkward.
Well, yeah, Chris, I sort of just do what I need to do,
Yeah.
Or however he said, Chris, I sort of just need to do what I need to do. That was to George Lucas. I'm sorry.
That was George Lucas, yeah. You got to add some Southern in there.
A little bit of Virginia, George Lucas.
Yeah, I can't even do it, but like, you got to, yeah.
It's hard. Walter White is like he's a real. It's a lot more. It's close enough to Lucas to where I can't split the difference.
Yeah, you're going too Kermit with it. Like you got to take a little bit of that Kermit out of George Lucas' voice.
Is it just my Southern Kermit character?
Take a little bit of the Muppet.
Walter White. He's the kind of guy who likes to really. He likes science, and also he likes pride. He likes to be in charge. He likes to get things done. and he doesn't like being talked down to or left out.
And he plays the banjo. Breaking banjo.
Yeah.
I do want Chris Nolan to do something different. I think it's high time.
Mm-hmm.
And
I just think filmmakers at a certain point like need to ascend. Like they just need to join the consciousness.
Yes.
And like, congratulations, Chris.
Yes.
It's like that. This actually works. I've been showing people recently. I've been resurfacing that Winnie the Pooh reel I sent all of you guys that you all hate. And I've been recirculating it. And so it's a lot like, we love it in here, Pooh. Together.
Yes.
Join us, Pooh. I'm afraid to, Tigger. Inside me, you'll find peace. You'll find family.
So creepy.
I love it so much.
That's like that video I sent you all. This was years ago. It was like Goofy having war flashbacks. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And it got really dark. I don't remember what happened, but I remember being really creeped out about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was animated, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. No, but someone gets murdered and then like, yeah, it was dark.
Yeah. It's really dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to quote a Chris Nolan movie, like you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
Like that's what we're saying. He's a hero right now.
Yep. Right now.
So time to die.
Time to die. No, but it's right. It's almost true in life in a way. Like we say this about all of like our heroes who like they live long enough to start getting weird ideas, and then you go, "Oh, hey, stop, stop talking,
no,
stop talking, please."
Yeah, right.
It happens to all of our parents. It happens to all of our heroes.
Yeah, it happens to everybody,
and one day it will happen to us.
Yes,
and then it'll be the younger generation telling us to die.
Shut up, old man.
Be quiet.
Yeah. Well,
I'm depressed.
There it is. Yeah. So you saw Dream Scenario, right?
Speaking of depression, I did. I watched Dream Scenario because you talked about it on the show. That episode actually aired today. And so so I watched it. And I had like the exact same reaction as you did.
Did you? Okay.
I was like, I'm going to come away different. And afterwards I was like, oh no, I can see everything he was talking about. Cause like for 2 acts, it's like, oh wow, this is so interesting.
This is interesting.
And then they kind of just like, there's one incident and then we flash forward like a year removed from it. And we just sort of see like, okay. So like I came away from the movie like, okay, like, cause you were like, it has nothing to say. I feel like if it's trying to say anything, it's like a movie about like the trade-offs of fame. Because I'm trying to think like what changes in the movie, and what changes is Paul wants recognition.
Yeah.
And then he gets sudden intense fame, which he likes.
Yeah.
And he tries to pivot it to gain the momentum to actually do the thing he wants to be recognized for.
Yeah.
And in the course of his, but the fame itself and his, not even really beyond his control, it turns sour. And then his life is ruined. And then he gets to do the thing he wanted to do, but like at the cost of, like his.
It's overshadowed by his own infamy.
Yeah. And even then, like he still loses his wife and, and it's kind of has to start over in a way, but like he's financially secure. Like he talks about the book deal being so, but even then like the light or whatever falls and hits his eyes. And so like, it's so I come away with it like, oh, okay. Great. So I never like, I came away with like I came away with it thinking like, I'm not sure I'd recommend anyone see this for that reason. Yeah. Because it has something to say about fame, but so do a lot of better movies. Yeah. But it was weird seeing it's always weird these days seeing Michael Cera because I'm just not used to seeing him.
I'm glad he's popping back up though. I like Michael Cera.
I love Michael Cera. I love like what I perceive as the Michael Cera that doesn't give a fuck right now.
Yeah, right.
I love it.
I've always loved, so going back to like Arrested Development,
yeah,
I've always loved Michael Cera, and I think he got like this weird, I guess it's probably because of Superbad, honestly.
Probably.
He got pigeonholed as like the awkward kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but he had so much more going on.
Yeah.
Like he's really sarcastic, and he's also really like he's not a nerd. He's not really a nerd. You know what I mean? Like McLovin was even nerdier than he was in Superbad. So I'm like, where did he get stuck with like this nerdy awkward kid thing? Is like that was public perception, but that he never really did that.
I think it stopped after like after Scott Pilgrim, probably, right?
Probably.
Because that was him leaning into it the hardest.
I just feel like Michael Cera is a great actor and he's a great comedic performer, and it just sucked to see him like pigeonholed. And so I always wonder, like, is he ever? What happens is a lot of times actors get like typecast, and they're known for this thing at a sort of specific age, and then they age out of it, and then there's nowhere in the industry for them to go. And I'm so happy to see him, kind of reclaiming his career. Not that he ever lost it, but like notoriety, right?
Yeah.
Between like Barbie and whatever, like it feels to me like as soon as you unhitch yourself from the Seth Rogen wagon, you do way better for yourself.
Yeah, I guess so.
Look, like Seth Rogen is his own brand at this point.
Yeah.
And all of that. But like, I don't know, it feels to me like if you're able to escape the clutches of the Rogan, then you're able to like move forward. And like, yeah, man, I don't know. I'm excited to see him back. And
the clutches of the Rogan.
The clutches of the Rogan.
Michael
Rogan
Cera.
Goldberg.
Book 2, Michael Cera and the clutches of the Rogan.
Yeah. I don't know. But I'm excited to see him back, and I think he's great. But no, I agree with you. Dream Scenario, it's great for 2 acts and then just completely fouls it up, and like and I see what you're saying about what the film is probably saying.
Yeah.
But I always come back to
what
like
I took from it,
but is it saying it well?
Right.
And I go, no, it's not. It's not adding anything new to the conversation. It's like fame bad. Okay.
Yeah. Could have been an email.
Yeah, could have been an email.
Just tell me fame is bad.
Yeah, exactly. But it's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting movie, and like the weight of the concept carries it for a long time.
Yeah. And, because you're basically watching a guy, the second act is essentially a guy getting canceled.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Except like he didn't do anything.
Yes.
But that's like the most interesting part of the movie is like him, like, should I apologize? Like just navigating like the PR of like, how do I deal with the fact that I've upset people, and like taken to the extreme of, but I didn't do anything,
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like by its nature, like to me, the film was better or at its best when he remained innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And the second he started to lose his innocence in the whole ordeal, it started to betray its own premise in some way, because at least part of the strength of, maybe the majority of the strength of that premise is, I'm not doing anything to get famous, and I'm not doing anything to deserve this. And then the second he starts doing something to deserve the consequences, then it betrays the premise of the film. And it's almost like he should have just remained a passive, like the plot happens to me kind of character. And then we could feel for him more, but maybe the mistake the film makes is it implicates him in some way. And, and then we lose our ability to relate to his plight. Because that is an interesting idea of like somebody is getting canceled for something they didn't even do, or like that's an interesting thing. But then when he starts to prove that he's kind of toxic in his own right, his own way, well, okay, so then it's not really that he's getting canceled for nothing. It's he's getting canceled, and he probably should be canceled. Because he's a jerk to everybody. So I don't know. It's kind of a catch-22 because you want a character who's active. You want a character who makes choices and influences the plot. But at the same time, the second you do that, you betray the premise, which is that this character is doing nothing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like it's a thought exercise and it's like a character study because like the plot seems to be somewhat influenced by his nature of wanting fame and being concerned with how he's perceived. Like he's very fixated on the fact that in most of the dreams in the beginning, he just is observing people in peril and not helping them.
Yeah.
And so it like that bothers him. It bothers him
right.
that most people might think that he's just, inactive or complicit in their suffering.
Yep.
And little does he know that soon he will be actively causing pain and misery for them.
Yes. Yeah.
And, yeah.
And I do think they should have taken that further. Like, I think it would have been great if the film almost became a horror film at that point where he is the boogeyman that's in everyone's dream. He's Freddy Krueger in a way. And like, if we were able to see more gruesome dreams that he was a part of, like, I guess there's a few flashes, but like,
man, watching him like stomp run in his daughter's room, like that was terrifying. I was
terrifying. I'm like, that's what I want more of. I want to see more of like him being a true nuisance and like a horror figure in and of himself, only to then like come out of it and realize like, oh, I'm not doing it. Like I feel like the string, like if it were up to me and somebody handed me the script and said, look, we're about to shoot this thing. How do we fix it? It's not working. Or is it working? I'd be like, look, it ain't working. Here's what you do. Like you have to have your character retain their do nothingness. And everything happens to them. So if you have to have an active character who's shaping this, then you either raise his wife up to be that character or one of his children up to be that character, so that they, or even Michael Cera, they are, perpetuating this, or they are in some way driving the story forward, but it can never be him.
Yeah.
And it has to grow more and more outlandish, more and more horrific, so that the stakes get higher, but the character can't make those higher, or else the character is implicit, like the character's involved in all of that's happening. So you have to make that character stay at a distance. But where it goes from there, I don't know. I'd have to think about it more. Like you're almost putting a character through an experience that they don't want to go through, and they're not actively making any of it happen. And I don't know if I can think of a filmic example of that, where our protagonist is actively doing nothing the entire time. But that's almost what you have to do. That's the premise of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're right. Like the film's best utility is as like an academic exercise.
Yeah.
If you and I taught a class that was just like what not to do in movies, and like the coursework was just 10 weeks of, all right, we got 10 movies to show you that completely drop their premise or betray their premise.
Yeah.
This week we're going to watch a dream scenario.
Right. Yeah.
A movie that has me for an hour.
Yep.
And then loses me.
And then you back it up. You back it up for the class and say, okay, here's the point where it betrays. Yeah, right. Here's the point where it betrays its premise. We're stopping it right here. Where do you go? Jimmy, where do you go? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Let's brainstorm. Go.